Haina ia mai ana kapuana a o he lua e like ai me oe. Haina Haina ia mai ana kapuana a o he lua e like ai me oe. Aloha.
Thank you, Kumu, Keala.
You're welcome.
And welcome to all of you. This is, I think, a very good and well distributed group of people. Not too much on the left, not too much on the right. And yes, and thank you all for being prompt. It's like we're actually on time. And, I'm Pasha. I'm the facilitator for this morning, and we have Kumu Keala Ching in a double role. He's both our musician and our presenter. And I want to acknowledge the advance crew, the ones who were here, like, even 9:15 to make sure all the equipment was working and the place was clean and the chairs were in the right positions. And so you know who you are. To get us started this morning, we have a reading from the Science of Mind, and it looks like Shane is going to do the honors. With mask.
Learn to be at home in the universe. No more loneliness. No more sense of isolation. See God in everything, the same God with a different face. How about showing up as love itself? To do that, you may have to let go of some pretty clear boundaries you've created to keep yourself from being hurt or disappointed. We can always think of a good reason to withhold our love. Maybe your new motto could be, I'm going to lead with love. What's the worst that could happen? You give it and you feel you don't get anything back. You give it and it is unappreciated. You will survive. Love is the last outpost of great living. Love heals everything, including your own heart. Love opens up avenues to forgiveness and understanding. We think we are loving beings, but I think many of us are living with hearts blocked by the pain and suffering of the past. That limits our ability to see the world as a safe and loving place. We begin to define our outer world and its parameters based on our inner pain. We can live in limitation until we die, or we can choose to take a chance on love. We can decide that we don't want to live the rest of our lives hiding from ourselves. So, without regard for what you are receiving, decide from now on to be a giver of life. Decide that you will be the one who brings the love, beauty, and grace to every situation. You will be the one to shine the light wherever you are. You will be the instrument through which great healing happens. Now I've got the affirmation we're all going to say together. I'll stay for. I live my life from the love that I am.
I live my life from the love that I am.
Again. I
I
live
live the
my life
life
from
from
the
the
love
love
that I
that I
am.
am.
Louder. I live the life from the love
Love
that
that
I
I
am.
am.
One more time. Come on. I
I live
live my
my
life
life
from the
from the
love
love
that
that
I
I
am.
am. Okay, now to leave the lanai, you're going to have to say that again. Otherwise, you stay here till next week. Okay, let's take a couple of minutes for to center and reflect on that beautiful reading, and I will do the chimes to signify when that quiet time is over. So now we get a song from Kumu, or chant. You can decide song or chant. Up to you, Kumu.
Iahu ino kamauna kukila kila ohu alalai. Ohu alalai no kamakua o Hawaii. Kawahi ne kapu o Hawaii loa. I kona noho na o ka na mai lau ino ki o lau kona. Kuana o anei o maru kapalaua I puhau. O puhau kona waina I ki o lau kaulana mauna. Palilua o ino o kona I ke kai mau ki o ki kai mali moli. I ka he mai la I ke o la o puhau. I ka ho ino I awahi o haleki. Na wewe ku na ino kalu kalu. O kanakau o no liu I mei no kanakau. E iau ino komako a kua kua mai la I au I hale. No ke ola o aloha e. Aloha mai.
Thank you. I could hear some mountain names in there.
Yes, we start with Mount of Hualalai. And then from Hualalai, she is the one that really takes care of Kona. And she's also the wife of Hawaiiloa. Hawaiiloa is one of the navigators that made his way to the islands. And so she was placed up on the mountain. And we reach all the way to Anaiho'omalu, which is Waikoloa. And then just south of Anaiho'omalu is the place called Kapalawa. And Kapalawa is the northern point of Kona. And then we come to Pu'ohau, which is this hill right in the middle, Konawaina. This is Pu'ohau. And then from Pu'ohau, the chant goes all the way to Kaulana Mauna, which is the southern point of Kona. And South Kona used to be called Palilua. Palilua is two cliffs, and it's because Hualalai and as well as Mauna Loa holds the south point of Kona, the district of Kona. And then I asked him to get back into the ocean. The oceans that's very significant is the Ma Oki Oki, or the choppy waters. And then on the inside is the Ma Lino Lino, the glassy waters. And then to make its way right back to Pu'ohau, and coming up is Haliki'i, Kana'ue'ue, that's that district. And then Kalu Kalu is right over there. And then Onauli is on the other side. And then in the chant, it says, come back to Kanakau. And Kanakau is where we're at. And here we are in this house. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Now I feel really centered. So thank you all for being cooperative about wearing your mask, whether or not you personally believe in it. The New Thought Board of Trustees feels this practice is necessary to keep us all safe, keep New Thought in alignment with the health regulation for places of worship. And it's kind of a tricky time right now because some of us are fully vaccinated, some of us are not vaccinated at all and never will be, and some are in between in the process. But we want everyone to feel welcome and safe, regardless where they're at with that process. So that's why we still have to do this. But the people on the live stream might wonder, well, why am I saying this and I have my mask off? Well, Kumu and I have not just 6 feet separating us from the nearest other human being, we've got at least 12 feet. So we put in extra space so that the people in the front who particularly need to be heard um, don't have to deal with the muffling effect of the mask. But when it comes to our miracles, since multiple people are using the same microphone, we will ask you to keep your mask on for that. And Stephen, our sound person, will simply turn up the volume as needed. So I get to introduce New Thought. We aren't yet able to do that part of our program that we enjoy where we get to each, say our name and respond to a prompt. That's coming up, but we aren't there yet. However, I can introduce New Thought as an entity. And to do that, this morning I'm going to borrow the words of Morty Breyer. Some of you remember Morty, but he's hasn't been in his body for, I guess, 16, 17 years. So maybe not so many of you remember him, but he was just a wonderful soul. He was the president of the board of New Thought Center from 1996 to 2003. And I had the pleasure to serve on the board at that time. He had a real gift for words. That's why sometimes I like to, even after all these years, I like to borrow some of his lovely words. He also did amazing mandalas. He's the one that designed our New Thought logo. But if he had to wait for service at a restaurant, our New Thought group is at the restaurant and the service is slow, he would just create a mandala on a paper napkin. That was one of his special gifts. Anyway, here's how he introduced New Thought Center. By providing a loving, accepting, non judgmental community, we create a sanctuary for the nourishment, development, and evolution of each individual's unique spiritual path. This not only furthers us individually, but by bringing our compassion, insight, and wisdom forward, it benefits those around us, our fellow travelers, our spiritual community, our family, friends, and neighbors, our dear Kailua Kona community, and our world. We aim to treat each other and those around us as sparks of the divine, rays of the Great Spirit, Christ conscious souls, and Buddhas. We gather here each Sunday morning to help us affirm these views and strengthen our capacity to love and be loved. Thank you for joining this gathering. Thank you, Morty, for phrasing it so well. And Kumu, now I believe we get another song or chant.
All right. So we can look in the book, and it's Keola magazine for us that's on the live stream. Um, Keola magazine that was the issue March and April.
Would the ushers like to
That
give these to people right now? Okay, everyone who wants has? No.
and as things do open up slowly, um, we have to be reminded of this beautiful word aloha. And in the reading, we spoke about aloha being love. And I shared this really cute story. Teacher came driving by and she said, "Oh, how do you like my license plate? I changed it." And I read it and it said "Live Aloha." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And she looked at me and she said, "Well, it's living with love." And I goes, "No, it doesn't mean that." And she looked at me and she said, "Well, what does that mean?" And I said, "Well, love is, when you break it all down, it is words that was shared to us back in the 60s by Kupuna. Her name is Pilahi Paki, and she comes from our island up in Honoka'a. And she attended this conference, and there were people talking about the word aloha. And she stood up and she said, "No, no, no, no. You folks got it all wrong," in a nice way. And so the instructor continued to say, "Well, what does it mean?" And I said, "Well, the first A, it refers to akahai, and it says to really live your life very gentle, as gentle as you possibly can, not only for yourself but for others. Be very gentle." And this is the word akahai. It also refers to perseverance, to continue to move forward. And then in the L, she shares the word lokahi. And lokahi is relationship, relationship with the spirit, relationship with the land, relationship with people. And you want to keep that in focus as well. Then she uses the O and she says olu olu. And olu olu is being very pleasant. Well, in our school, and the school I'm talking about is Kawai Kapu Kalanihiwe, Kuhai Halau. He shares the O to be Oya I'o. And Oya I'o is the truth. And many times we do our best to live the truth. However, it gets bent a lot. But it's a reminder to continue to live in the truth, to speak in the truth, and to know the truth, whatever the truth is, right? And then the H, she shares the word ha'aha'a and be very humble. And then the last is ahonui. Ahonui, which speaks about being very, very patient. And if you have all of these characteristics or these values, then you truly represent what aloha is all about. So aloha is not only love. Aloha is being connected, being gentle, living in the truth, being very humble in all things that you have, and most importantly, be very, very patient. It's not going to come now, but it will come. And if we can recognize that, then we are truly living our life, not in love, but in aloha. And so I really appreciated that message. And it is love because that's what we can recognize right now. Aloha is love. I asked my niece and I said, "What is aloha?" Goodbye. And I went, "What?" So it means goodbye. And then goes, and she's only 5 years old, but just to hear their perspective, it's really, really interesting. So in our mele, it says "O ke aloha iho no," and as we say, we live our life. Oh, the page is number 9. I've been writing for Keola magazine for the past, I think we've earned 13 years now, and it's so beautiful. They always keep me around 7 and 9. So it's really nice. I just say, go get Keola magazine. I'm on page 7 or page 9. But in it, it recognizes that, if you have this gentleness, this relationship with many things that's around us, the pleasantry or the truth, being very humble and patient, we find that ihono within us. Why do we do it? We do it for everyone that's around us. Most importantly, our spirit, yeah, to empower our spirit, our being of our chakras, I guess we call, or the piko, our centers, po'o, and then our piko, and then our genital area. These is our 3 main centers. And then we say our people, our OEV, and then the Eve, our generations to come. And we want this aloha to continue. Eola mau. O aloha iho no na e ke akua e ola mau. Let's try that one more time. O aloha iho no na ke akua e ola mau. Kahikolu. O aloha iho no na kahikolu e ola mau. O iwi. O aloha iho no na o iwi e ola mau. Eve. O aloha iho no na eve e ola mau. E ola mau. E ola mau ke aloha. E ola mau ke aloha. E ola mau ke aloha. Ke aloha iho no. Okay, aloha iono.
for including us in that Kumu. Thank you for including us in that.
You're welcome.
And I didn't feel shy in my singing in my mask because if I made a mistake, nobody would know. So now is the time in our program when we invite people to share their miracles and ordinaries, the special happenings in their lives or um, insights. I'll read one of the definitions, one of the many definitions of miracles um, from our facilitator guideline. It says they are miracles because they're unexpected, they remind us of truth, they have the power to change us. But they're also ordinary because they happen in the midst of our daily lives. They're the stuff of our daily lives. And the lessons are right there to serve us now. Um, and normally, like pre-COVID, we had this great handheld microphone, and we could just pass it around, and people could share their miracle or ordinary from wherever they were sitting. But we have to do it a little differently right now. So if you're moved to share something of that nature, you will come up and stand in front of this microphone with the bright salmon pink cover and keep your mask on, please, since other people are also using that microphone. Um, and then the rest of us can benefit from what's shared and honor that person with our full attention. But the protocol is not to give advice or to comment on anyone else's miracle. Okay, so who's first? I'm just stepping back a little so I'll be properly distanced.
Aloha. My name is Lee, and I am new to Kona. I've been here about 4 months. I am a New Thought minister and practitioner from Palm Springs. And I came to open a rehab facility. And the other day, a beautiful friend of mine came and said that someone was really suffering in their life and wanted to know if I could do a treatment. And so I sat with her and we did a treatment. And at the end, a red cardinal came and made itself present. So I went later that afternoon to sit with a person who was struggling, and we talked for hours and we did treatment. And as soon as we finished, I looked right above his shoulder. The red cardinal had returned, and this was 8 miles away. You know, not the same cardinal, but definitely a symbol that healing had begun to come. And so when I found this place was open and here today, I wanted to come. And so I thank you for allowing me to be here. Namaste.
Hi. Hi, my name is Deb. Welcome, Lee. I love cardinals. Um, so, in my next door to me, some people just did not get along with at all. And finally, we um finally they left. And the house got sold. It took a really long time. And the people who bought it are just the most wonderful people in the world. And I just can't believe how lucky we are. And his name is Gary, and he's an artist. And her name is Deva, and she's a healer. And they have a little 4-year-old son named Kumu. And um, in fact, they nickname him King Kumu. And I, I actually haven't met the boy yet, but I am just so happy that we have people right next door that we they are so sympathetic and so empathetic and it's respectful, and uh, it's a dream. I'm so happy.
Keep it on.
Hoalalai. Hoalalai. Telepathy. I go flying after 2 years hiatus out of the next to Honakaha Harbor, RC flying. But I get there before dawn. Before dawn. I have a view of Hawaii. I've been counting the ridges. I've been sending energy, and I look at Hawaii and I'm just uh, transfixed by that. And all of a sudden, he talks about it. I've been wondering what's going on. Usually, I meditate for a half an hour before I fly to get calm. I have flying wings, but I usually send my almaco up and circle around Hawaii. I'm through.
I have something really quick. Mahalo for sharing that flight. Um, Yesterday, I went to Hawaii Wildlife Center in Kapa'au, and there's this eel or a Hawaiian hawk that was found on Hinalani, and he was injured, and so he was taken to the wildlife center. And so through email, they contacted me and they wanted to find out the protocol on how to care for an eel or the Hawaiian auk. And I said, well, I think first of all, you need to give it its a name if you're going to take care of it. So they said, oh, Kumu, he was found in Hualalai, just around Hinalani. And I said, oh, okay, I think you should call him Eka because Eka is the name of our wind that blows from the ocean up to the mountain. And so, no conversation. They just said, yes, I like it. So, yesterday I was able to meet him, and it was such a blessing just to be in the presence of this eel. Tears just filled up my eyes, but I was like, wow. So, of course, everyone was, talking to me about him, and he was actually blinded on his right eye. Um, and then he had to compensate a lot on his left eye. And so, as they were talking to me, of course, he turned to look at me with his left eye. So I thought it was really, really cute, and but still, his presence was just so amazing. And so they said, "Oh, Kumu, we're gonna see if he would come to the glove." And I said, "Okay." So the doctor, he went and he tried, and he didn't come. He actually moved away from the doctor. And so he waited and he said, it's not his time to eat. And he knows that. And, I'm trying to train him. This is the doctor speaking, very similar to how I train a horse. So it's habit that he wants to get with the bird. And I said, all right. And so I asked him, do you know if the bird is affected by loud noises. And he said, well, I'm not sure what you're talking about, Kumu. And I said, well, I know how quiet it is here. I'm just asking if he is affected, if he's going to fly and go crazy, if there's loud noises. And he said, I don't think so. And I said, I want to chant to him. He said, okay. So I moved a little closer. I started chanting. And I actually told him that you are from Hualalai, don't forget it. And that if you are able to fly back, please come back home. But in the meantime, this is your place, and these people are willing to help you and feed you and bring you back to, the life that you can with these problems in your eyes. And so after I chanted, I spoke to him and I said, I'm very happy to be here and to just visit you. And so I went to the doctor and I said, try again. And so he went and he got closer to the bird, and the bird just hopped on his glove and came. He started to feed the bird. And then as he came, he started to bring the bird a little closer to me. And it was just amazing how, just to see the colors and the, the eyes and how he just eats. And it's just so blessed. And so he told me, would you like to? And I go, oh my gosh, what would I do? He goes, do exactly what I'm doing. And I said, okay. And so I tried and I went and I just put my hand out. And of course, he was looking at the doctor because he's the one with the black shirt and he's the one that got the food. I got a blue shirt. He has nothing. And so I went and I put my hand in a position and he hopped away. And then I stepped back. And then the doctor moved next to me. And then I went and I put my hand out again. And then he actually took two hops near my hand. And then he flew away, flew back to where he was starting, where we came in, where he was when I arrived. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful time with him. And then after I chanted and I said, you'll be fine in this area. And I appreciate coming to see him. And then we left. And then as we got out of the home of this bird, they released, I think 2 weeks prior to yesterday, they released another hawk. And they said that this hawk always comes back, the eel. And just as we stepped out, he flew right above our head into the tree. And then along with him was a female, and she flew further forward. And I thought it was just such a blessing. It was just a warmth in our heart. And I think, the message for me is, we have to pay attention to what's going on. So I'm not sure if it's a miracle, but it's beautiful. Mahalo.
Kumu, I feel like for me to do the introduction now would just lower the vibration. If anybody didn't know who you were, which is unlikely, just by sharing that miracle, they they begin to know more than the words on this paper could say. So I'm just going to let you go into your main presentation now, and uh, I think I'll relocate just so I don't have to be turning my head sideways, and I'll go sit in that chair, and then if it's getting close to the time we need to wind up, I'll come and sit here again.
Mahalo nui Pasha. I like to begin with an oli that I wrote, of course, including my name in it, which is really, really nice. And that's basically how we begin to express our introduction. So it's really about the water cycle. And in the water cycle, it honors the flow of the clouds going into the mountain. And then when it falls into the mountain, it becomes the waters of Kane. And then from Kane goes into Kanaloa, the ocean. And then the evaporation as the gases lift up into the clouds. That is the time of Ku. And then as the clouds get heavy, this is Lono. He vai ua ua ka ua ua I ho mai ka vai ola ola e ka vai lono o lono ka leo leo na kupuna puna vai a kane. Kane a ka vai kana loa a ke kai kai ola kino vai ola kino no ke mau ke ola ma e ke kino kino I hono I hola ka pono ole ho I mai kau mai ke ola kuma e. Ho I ola e ka vai lono ka leo na kupuna puna vai a ka he vai ua ka ua I ho mai ka vai ola e. E o ka vai ola vai iwi ola o ke ala ku kapu. Kapu malu ya ke ala e. E ola. Well, again, the chant spoke about all the cycles, just understanding our clouds. Um, these are the clouds that bring on the rain. And from the rain, we know the cycle it goes up in the mountains. Then, because the clouds are so heavy, it needs to release the rain. Then the clouds go over the mountain. In this rain, it's captured, it's Kane, the fresh waters of Kane. And from Kane it goes all the way here in Kona. We have aquifers, so they're all underground, and so they go all the way out into the ocean. Hence, our ocean very cold because of this fresh water after really strong rain. And this is where Kane meets up with Kanaloa. Kanaloa is of the ocean, and then as the sun evaporates this huge mass. It gathers up into the clouds, and then in the clouds it gets gray, and then it becomes the clouds or the waters of Lono, and then the cycle continues. In the chant, it talks about how we would go in and do an actual cleansing, the cleansing in the water, submerging yourself in the ocean, and just really allowing everything to go through a purification during our time, of course, this COVID, our oceans rejuvenated itself. It's so amazing. The colors and the fish, it's so beautiful just to take a pause in our islands. And it's interesting because, we have lots of people that come to Hawaii for the beauty, but they forget to observe the beauty, and as I was talking with the group up in the Hawaii wildlife, they say, Kumu, how do we continue to share? How do we continue to speak about aloha and love? And I said, you just have to continue and hope that they will get it. And the reason is because many of them are visitors. And when you're a visitor and you don't want to connect with the host culture or the host, and I'm not just saying Hawaii, I'm saying host culture in the local culture, the local missionary culture, the local culture that have many people that's been here for 30 years coming from somewhere else. There's no connection, and because of that they then isolate themselves, and then they cause trouble to their neighbors, and then they forget why they are living here. And it's because of this, as I shared, that aloha, that gentleness, that being able to find that relationship, and how to connect. And and they say, Kumu, how do you do it? And I said, that's that's just 2%. And I said, and if we focus on the 2%, then we lose the 8%. And I said, so Kumu always focus on the 8%. And hopefully the 8% can take care of the 2%. And I said, but if we focus on the 2%, then we lose everyone else. And I said, so we have to continue to inspire people, continue to speak about why we came here, and what was so beautiful that we came here, and hope that they find it within themselves to make it happen, or else they'll move away. And whether it was because they didn't connect, we don't know. That's not what we want to focus on. We want to focus on the 8% and then work on the 2%. And I said, and that's what I continue to do. And I say that to them because when I first started teaching in the community, the Hawaiian language, my first class, I had about 175 students in my class, in a community free class in my community on Oahu. And then after the third week, I went to 75 students. And then on the fifth week, I was down to 50. And then on the eighth week, I was down to 12. And I said, okay, if I beat myself up because I went from 175 to 12, my focus is on all that I've lost versus focusing on the 12 that I have. And so, because of that, I really understood that you have to focus on the ones that really, really want it. And so I worked with those 12. It went down to five, but I still worked with them. And I'm not sure what happened in their situation, but we need to focus on the ones that are still here, that's still willing to learn, because then they will become the spokespersons on the outside. And so I'm telling you all of this because this is the chant that I wanted to share. And the chant is that we need to, find this way to huli ke alo. Huli ke alo is to our alo is our face, and we have to look upon something else of what's happening. And I use alo because this pandemic has really damaged the true gift of aloha, and that is being face to face. Alo ke alo. Alo ke alo is face to face, and ha is to share the breath. Well, the pandemic has said we shouldn't be sharing breath, but that's only one relationship to what that is saying, because the ha is actually the presence. And if you stay in the presence like how we're all face to face, and we all have our mask on, which is perfect, except me. But I'm far away. But we are here presently. You are listening, I am sharing. And so this is what aloha is all about. However, and I'm not saying bad things about you guys over there on social media, but if you live your life behind the camera, on the computer, then you eliminate this this presence, because it's certainly different. And so this is where I really connect to our school, Konoana Middle School. We've brought back a hybrid group of kids, and hybrid is from A to KE. You start a Monday and Tuesday course. So you're on campus Monday to Tuesday if you choose. Wednesday is a teacher's faculty day, and then Thursday, Friday is L to Z. So we actually split the population for the kids' opportunity to come on campus. That's what a hybrid is. And in the mornings, we are on our computers, and I'm teaching children that are on the computer at home, and then children that are in class. And this is really, really unique. But the most important thing that our school has done is in the afternoon, after lunch, it is totally unplugged. Unplug is there is no way we can go back to the computer, which is excellent. I'm like, yes. Yet, we need our teachers to see that we need to give them supplemental or enhancement work during unplug to support what they have to do in their plug session. And my example is I'm teaching my students hula. So as I'm teaching them online, of course they could just like they could dance, and I'm over here boiling, and I'm like, "Ugh, keep your hands up." And then I'm chanting, every morning I do a series of chants, and they're like this looking at me. And I'm like, you're supposed to learn the chant. Learn it with me. So I was about to give up. But I said, no, these chants are not for them. They're for me. And if they choose to learn it, then they'll be for them. And so I sing a good 10 minutes, let them just look and stare at me. But as long as they stand there and staring at me, I'm okay. So I'm chanting and chanting and singing and singing. And then I sit down, all right, I put the screen up and I said, you chant. So they're like, Kumu, I don't know. Oh, how come you don't know it? How come? I say, I have the words up there on the computer where you can put it. I have also a video you can use and practice. They're all in the classwork. You can do it. So they said, okay, Kumu. So I posted and they do their best to chant it. And I'm like, perfect. You're not going to sound like me unless you practice like me. So I'm excited because now unplug, I get them all to myself and then tell them, here, chant now. I want to listen. So of course there's no like turning Kumu off or making it mute. There's no way. You have to chant. And so they're there, they're chanting. And as they're chanting, I'm popping popcorn and making food for them and I'm feeding them and they're all looking at me and they're saying, Kumu, why are you feeding us? Because every time you eat, you learn. And I said, right now, I just made you 6 bags of popcorn and you learned the whole chant along with the second chant. You forgot about these words because you were shoving these popcorns in your mouth. And I said, so now you know the chant. And so now when we're chanting, they're chanting, which is beautiful. And they said, but Kumu, you're the only one that feeds us on campus. And I said, well, maybe we can be an example for the rest that we need to nurture you not only through the documents, but nurture you with food and see how you can connect. And so in the words, it says, Huli ke aloha kua. And Huli ke aloha kua is not only the spirit, but turn to a foundation. What is that foundation that we want to build? And this foundation could be the foundation of just living here. How does it look? Getting to know the stories, understanding the mountain, the wind, the clouds, the districts. That might be the foundation. But basic foundation could be why when we go to a gathering, there's lots of food. And normally when we are finished with our discussion here, we would have a whole buffet line in the back. And so that is the foundation where everyone comes with their prepared food and they place it on the back of the buffet line. We don't have a buffet line today, but that is one basic practice that whenever you go to a gathering, it's not about just going to get a small package of potato chips, but it's about getting a meal that is so nourishing for the mass, for the people that is gathering with you. And so, if that's a foundation that you want to start with, then that's the foundation that we want to in this chat. Huli ke aloha kua, why? He ha olae. Yeah, which means there is there is life. There is this life within that gathering and bringing food. In the next line, it says, Huli ke alo wailua, he ha olae. What is wailua? Wailua is wai is water. Lua is two waters. And we have a beautiful district that is called Kai'alua. And Kai'alua is the sea of two. And in Kai'alua reference is the Kinkamehameha Hotel, the wall, the sea wall, Along there, you'll see Hulihe'e Palace, and across the street is Moku'ai Kaua Church, which is celebrated 200 years ago. 2 years. Yes, last year they celebrated 2 years being in Hawaii. Well, this is Kai'alua. Kai'alua comes because the current that comes from the south, it meets in that bay, and the current that comes from the north, it meets in that bay. So we're talking about two currents, Kai'alua, in that bay. But today we just call it Kailua. And that's why we have to say Kailua Kona, because we also have Kailua Oahu. And so when you send the mail, we have to put Kailua Kona. But if we just went to Kai'alua, then it would read so perfect to this location. Well, Vailua is now freshwater. And I think the best explanation to Vailua is our heart. Because as our heart flows, all that blood cells, that water that has no oxygen, it goes through the heart and it pumps through the heart and then it leaves with the oxygen. So that's one that goes in, that's one water. And then when it leaves the heart, that's Vailua. That's two waters. So when we look at this, Huli Ke Alo Wailua, we I encourage us to look to all possibilities, not just one way. You want to look, oh, maybe that's not the road that I want to go. Maybe that's not the place that I want to go. But huli ke alo wailua, look at all possibilities so that you're able to find that he ha ola e, that there's that life within that. So let's try. Huli ke alo akua he ha ola e. One more time. Huli ke alo akua he ha ola e. Again. Huli ke alo akua he ha ola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he ha ola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he ha ola e. So you might be thinking, well, Kumu, I heard you say vai, and then I heard you say wai. And both of them is the same thing. Vailua, wailua, it's the same thing. Yeah. Because sometimes when we go to Vaimea, you hear people speak Vaimea, which we really don't, but there are a few that say Vaimea. And then you hear those that say Waimea, Waimea. And so I always teach my students, if you're with the people that say Vaimea, you say Vaimea. If you're with the people that say Waimea, then you say Waimea. Yeah. And so that there's no confrontation. If you're willing to sit there and listen to why it should be Vaimea, then you go. But always know what I say. When you're with the people from Italy, you do what they do, right? So when you're with the people with Vaimea, you do Vaimea. And with the people with Waimea, you say Waimea. Hikino? Okay? Because it's the same thing over here. We have Kohanaiki and Konaiki. Kohanaiki, yeah. We have people say Kohanaiki, and then we also have Konaiki. So if you're with the people that say Kohanaiki, you say Kohanaiki. And if you're with the people that say Konaiki, you say Konaiki. And they all mean the same thing. Yeah. But it just some people says tomatoes and some says tomatoes. And it's okay, right? That's what Vailua is. Understanding that there's possibilities. And if we are able to understand, it brings clarity. And that's all. You know, we don't want to have a confrontation. I mean, if you want to, then yes. Huli. Huli ke alo akua he ha ola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he ha ola e. Kupuna. Huli ke alo kupuna he haola e. Kupuna. Puna is a source. Yeah, like punavai, a swimming pool, punakai, or a pond of salt water. Ku means to stand. So kupuna is a standing resource. Yeah. And so many of our kupuna, who are referred to as elders, feels like they're not resourceful. And it's because they always compare themselves with another kupuna who's over there with the ukulele and singing, and said, "Oh, I cannot be that kind of kupuna." Where you're not. You are your own standing force. You have to understand what elder and what resources you have and stop comparing yourself with that kupuna over there because that kupuna lived a different life. You lived a different life, as well as that one over there. She lived a different life. So everyone has their own source of knowledge. Yeah. And I got an email from a professor on the East Coast, and they said, "Oh, Kumu, we want to know your resource or your thoughts about the Kona Historical Society." And I said, I shared, the Kona Historical Society was really they documented a lot of our stories here in Kona, and it is a perspective. And I said the reason why it's a perspective is because many of those documented stories are coming from either a missionary point of view or a paniolo point of view. And if some of our missionary paniolo married our Hawaiians, then they have a few stories that is influential, that is Hawaiian. I said, but you have to understand that this is one document that is of the historical value of Kona. So I'm not shooting it. I'm saying you need to get a different perspective as well. Yeah. So that's what kupuna is. Kupuna is a standing source of knowledge, like the Kono Historical. It is a standing source of knowledge. Our Moku Aikawa Church, it is a standing source of knowledge. Hulihe'e, it is a standing source of knowledge. But they're all different. They're all totally different. Missionary Paniolo, Missionary Moku Aikawa, Hawaiians in the Hulihe'e. So they're all kupuna and they're all different. Yeah. So we have to honor those standing resources. And that's why a lot of our quote unquote kupuna feels that they're not kupuna. But you have to find your own resource. And you are a standing resource. Why? Because you lived here longer than, like myself. Very young. But I'm ready to be kupuna. Not really. So from the top. Huli ke alo akua he haola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he haola e. Kupuna. Huli ke alo kupuna he haola e. Kanaka. Huli ke alo kanaka he haola e. So kanaka actually comes from the term when the Sky Father, Wakea, and Wakea slept with his daughter Ho'ohoku Kalani. And from their union is a child, and this child was called Halua Naka. And Naka is very short for Kanaka. Yet he was born deformed, very alu alu, yeah, very liquidy. So she planted him into the ground, and from his body comes this taro. And so now he takes the term or the name Haloa Lau Kapalili. And Lau Kapalili is as you see the banana leaf in the wind, and that movement of the wind, that is Lau. kapalili, it moves. And so now his name is Haloa Lau Kapalili. They have another evening, and then the child is born. He is born to become the first generations of our people. And I'm saying generation because that's one story of many. And this, he becomes Haluanaka. And Haluanaka is the first generation of our people, the human. Yeah. So when we look at Kanaka, we're looking at people. So huli ke alo kanaka, we must turn to individuals and not only help when it's advertised, but help. Yeah. You always connect. You always give, give. And I know the reading said sometimes you give aloha and it never comes back, but it comes back differently. It doesn't come back in that form. And that's what we have to open our mind to, that even if you give so much aloha, it comes back. Why? Because everyone else shares that same aloha to you. So it might not be coming from that individual, but it's coming back. It's rejuvenating yourself. Yeah, because sometimes I always tell this story when our kids are now growing up. When I grew up, when our kupuna walked into the door, we would stand up and deliver water. It's automatic. You just take water. And nowadays, the kupuna stands up. They're still in their little machine there. And then kupuna walking all the way around, still nothing, no response. And so now we have a problem here. You know, there is no respect again for that kanaka. Yeah. So this huli ke alo kanaka is we need to find that connection, relationship. Yeah. And really connect, even if it's with our mask. But we find that relationship of that kanaka, that people. So from the top. Huli ke alo akua he haola e. Huli ke alo vailua he haola e. Huli ke alo kupuna he haola e. Huli ke alo kanaka he haola e. Aina. Huli ke alo aina he haola e. The aina, the land. In an olelo no iau, we say, he ali'i ko ka aina, he kawa ko ke kanaka. And which means the land is chief and the kanaka are servants. And we understand that because protocol, the land was produced first, and then we were then brought onto the land. So in the protocol, we honor the land because the land is first. It is the standing kupuna. It is the standing resource. So to be able to see all these ahupua'a, all these land districts, as I shared in the chant, honoring Hualalai all the way to Kaulana Mauna, understanding where we are in Kona. This is where this whole aina is all about. And I'm so excited that Condor shared about Hualalai because next month's chant is about a lay of Hualalai. And if you look at Hualalai on the clear days, you look towards the left of her, she has all these hills. And in the chant, it gives the names of all these hills, leading all the way down to Ka'ulupulehu. Ka'ulupulehu of the old people, they called Ka'ulupulehu. Today, they call it Ka'upulehu. But if you understand Ka'ulupulehu, this is where two women, young girls, they were surfing and they put the ulu on a barbecue, the pulehu, and they started to cook it. And they ran in and they went surf and they came back and that ulu was all pa. It was all burnt. So they forgot it. So this is where the term ka ulu pulehu is the name of that ahupua'a. Where this lei hualalai speaks about all the hills, starting with Hainoa, the tallest peak on Hualalai, and then Hualalai, and then the district of Honuaula, and then also Kaulupulehu. And so this is next month's one. So that's the chant that talks about all the different hills and the different significant parts of Hualalai heading towards Kaulupulehu. But it's important that we understand the land and how important it is and what it's referencing. This is where that huli ke alo aina. And then we say he aloha e, he aloha e, he aloha e, eola. Why? Because in it, that's where the ha is, that breath, that living, that presence of what we're talking about. So from the top, huli ke alo akua he ha ola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo vailua he ha ola e. Kupuna. Huli ke alo kupuna he ha ola e. Kanaka. Huli ke alo kanaka he ha ola e. Aina. Huli ke alo aina he ha ola e. He aloha. He aloha e. He aloha e. He aloha e. Eola. Okay, so now we gotta clap. We have to make it all exciting. Okay, so we go 1, 2, 3. Huli and huli ke alo akua he ha ola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he ha ola e. Kupuna. Huli ke alo kupuna he ha ola e. Kanaka. Huli ke alo kanaka he ha ola e. Aina. Huli ke alo aina he ha ola e. He aloha. He aloha e. He aloha e. He aloha e. One clap. Eola. Yeah, one more time. Huli. Huli ke alo hua he ha ola e. Wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he ha ola e. Kupuna. Huli ke alo kupuna he ha ola e. Kanaka. Huli ke alo kanaka he ha ola e. Aina. Huli ke alo aina he ha ola e. He aloha. He aloha e. He aloha e. He aloha e. Eola. Eola. So my last thing that I want to share with you is that as Hakumele, the composer of the chant, we hold the deeper and hidden meaning to the chant. And when you look at the chant, it says that the akua turns, and which is the source. Yeah, the source is actually seeking. But the way the chant is written is you have to recognize your own akua, your own foundation. When you recognize your foundation, then you're the one that's doing the seeking. When you recognize that wailua that's inside of you, then your wailua is the one that's seeking. When you recognize that you are kupuna, that source, that standing source, and that you are the one that's doing the turning. And when you recognize that you are the person, the kanaka, you are the one that is looking and seeking to find that breath. When you recognize that you are the land, then you then are the one that's seeking. If you are doing that kind of seeking, then you rejuvenate this He Aloha. He Aloha, you rejuvenate this love within, this breath, this presence, because you're the one that is doing it. You are part of all of this, these terms. Na, ke akua, yeah, akua, wailua, kupuna, kanaka, and aina. And really, they're the only words that change. Yeah, akua, wailua, kupuna, kanaka, and aina. So even though it looks like 14 different lines, there's only 5 words that changes. Everything is everything else is repetitive. And I do that because that helps with early childhood education. Repetition is so important, even nowadays. So we're not only talking about early childhood, these practices are very, very important even for us today. So this is why it's just 5 words and repetition. All right? So let's try again. Huli. Huli ke alo akua he ha ula wailua. Huli ke alo wailua he ha ula kupuna. Huli ke alo kupuna he ha ula kanaka. Huli ke alo kanaka he ha ula aina. Huli ke alo aina he ha ula he aloha. He aloha he aloha he aloha he ola. Mahalo, everyone.
Remember that when I get home.
You can watch. You can watch the live, right? Isn't it recorded?
Oh, yes.
So we can watch.
Ah, that's
You got the
right.
story.
We have no excuses.
No
just like,
excuse.
just like your
And you got the
students.
words. Keala magazine. Page 9. On another one, 7. So mahalo, Barbara, at Keala magazine.
Oh, this is just great. Thank you, Kumu. Well, let's see. I love how everything kind of just
Flow.
flows together. You know, the reading and the message and the. So it looks like the next thing is the offering, and we have our beautiful koa bowl here, but instead of the bowl coming to you, you get to come to the bowl, but one at a time, so you can kind of observe when there's a opening. And Kumu will strum, he'll do beautiful music while we're in our offertory process.
O ko aloha no. Ai kalani. A o koia I o he molele hoi. Ko uno mi ana. Apa o ia oi ko ulama ko nani ko uko mai na na ino ino na heva na kanaka. Koma kouma luhia. Ko ani ko uko. Na laila e kahaku. Malalo ko e ko ma luhia a maua aku no
Thank you for your donations. Thank you for your dancing,
Mhm.
and Kumu for your music.
Mhm.
And I want to tell you some of the benefits of facilitating, because there may be some of you sitting there that would enjoy giving it a try. Um, so one of the benefits of oh, okay, one of the benefits is you get to see the new thought dancers. They kind of they migrate to the back of the one eye. Also, in the course of today's service, I didn't see the red cardinals, but I saw two very beautiful white egrets fly by. And you get to do the fun little chimes. Some of our regular, some of our board members who are also tend to be most frequently in the facilitator chair are getting ready to migrate to the mainland for a few months. So we're open to having some new people give it a try. So the people, so the ones that you should make a point to say aloha in Elena's sense um, is this week are Palmer and Tony. They'll be in Las Vegas by this time next Sunday. So you'd be part of our live stream audience, right? Okay. Well, let's see. I think I have a few other announcements to share with you about that buffet table that we don't have. uh, we're doing our best to adapt. So we are having a produce giveaway after service. Oh, thank you, Kumu. I forgot. Oh, how thoughtful. We're having a produce giveaway after today, and so the farmers and gardeners among you were invited to bring if you had some surplus to share, and all of us, whether we're farmers or gardeners, can help ourselves to the bounty that is out there. So to your right, as you uh, exit, as you go beyond Building C on your way to the parking lot, um, we also have a relationship with our downstairs church, the Marshallese church. So if there's surplus beyond what we can use, then we'll share it with them. Uh, Next week, we will be welcoming Christine Laria. She'll be doing program and music, and her topic is The Sweet Spot, Living the Divine Connection of Your Dreams. The following week, the 9th of May, blessings on everyone involved. Sheila Gallion what your mother really wants you to know, in the sense of Mother Earth, I think, but it's also Mother's Day. Um, music by Sakshi Zion. And on the 16th of May, Jinan Wang, he'll be, he's a practitioner of Tai Chi. He hasn't given us exactly a title yet, but it will have something to do with Tai Chi. Music by Joe Conti. Our weekly classes are, we have Mondays, gentle yoga starting at 5 with Maria Mann. Sundays, group coaching from 4 to 5, Davina Mar. And I mentioned service opportunity. I mentioned about you can be a facilitator if you are interested. Other Sunday service functions that um, people can volunteer for are to be an usher. Uh, so I think Ramona and Terry both helped with that this morning. Sound system. Stephen will be happy to give training to any volunteers. Live streaming. I will be happy to have help with the recording function and remembering to angle the computer properly. Uh, Cleanup. We're not being so crazy about disinfecting everything because the research shows that isn't really as big of a issue as was thought at the beginning of the pandemic, but we still have been trying to keep up by we just have some pad, antiseptic pads that we just wipe down the parts of the chairs that people touch. And actually, that could be, I think we need a volunteer for that today, or one or two volunteers. Oh, thank you. So we get, yeah, and the supplies are right on the table. Ramona, could you point to them? Yeah. So, and then we intend to do this uh, produce giveaway monthly until we're able to have our buffet table again. So we could also use help with that, setting it up and breaking it down. And I'm kind of guessing that most of you probably are on our newsletter list already because you're here. But if you aren't, if you found out about the service in a different way and you want to be on our newsletter list, you can sign up on the New Thought website, www.newthoughtcenterofhawaii.com. And for those of you watching the live stream, that's also probably the most convenient way for you to make a donation if you're so moved. Go to that website and there's a donate button that connects to the New Thought PayPal account. And you don't have to have a PayPal account yourself to use it. You can do it with a credit or debit card as well. Uh, there's also New Thought information available on Facebook and Dolphin Podners. Oh, by the way, that I think is another volunteer opportunity because we have a new person doing our e-newsletter and our website. And we acknowledged Pomaikai last week. Pomaikai was doing. I believe she was taking the lead in that area for 15 years. So she was honored with one of those wonderful fragrant leis created by Patty Wall. Uh, Patty, is it Pua Keni Keni? Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I'm sure, thank you. When you have occasion to communicate with her, personal thank yous will also be appreciated. And her successor, Julia Fairchild, is doing her best to learn the ropes quickly. But the one aspect of it she doesn't didn't want to take on is the New Thought Facebook page. So if there's someone who's really skillful and into Facebook, oh my goodness, that'd be awesome. Okay, I gotta talk to you after service, Lee. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for our closing song. And Kumu wants us to learn more verses of Hawaii Aloha, but we haven't got around to printing the extra ones yet. So I guess we probably have to Well, we could sing what's there, and you could sing what isn't.
Right? It's
So,
just like the class, right? Just got to keep on singing. One day somebody's going to pick it up.
yeah. So we can't join hands, but if you want to stand, we can do that.
Let's see. I think I have an announcement, but it's not until the 11th of May. So Kumu has started Talk Story Night. It's under the new moon, and under the new moon happens over by at the Sheraton, and it's all in the big Hawaii lawn. So as you go to the Sheraton, it's the south side of the hotel, and you go towards the convention center up by that lawn area, and it's very very open. Everyone sits with their mask, and we have guests, artists that come tell the stories that they're dancing and singing. um, the hotels, we're working on getting some food if you want to purchase them, and drinks and stuff like that. So it just goes from 5 o'clock to 6:30. That is the second, normally the second Tuesday. So in May it'll be May 11th. So again, 5 o'clock at the Sheraton. It's under the new moon, they call it. All right. E Hawaii. E Hawaii e kuon me hanau e kuho me kula irine oli no au ina pono lani o e Hawaii aloha e haoli e nā oki o Hawaii ne e oli mai nā ahe makani e pamai nei mau ke aloha no Hawaii e ha'i mai ko mau kini lani o ko mau kupa aloha e Hawaii nā mea ori no ka maha'o no luna mai e Hawaii aloha e haoli e nā oki o Hawaii ne e oli oli e mai nā ahe makani e pamai nei mau ke aloha no Hawaii nā ke akua e nā lama mai a oi ko mau kua lono aloha nei ko mau kahawai o lino mau ko mau mala kuanani e hauli e nā oki o Hawaii ne e oli mai nā ahe makani e pamai nei mau ke aloha no Hawaii mau ke aloha no Hawaii e ho'i mai la no naku puna ka apuni ho ino mako.